Welcome to the Think About It Show. Your hosts, James Anderson and Johnny Nunn, where we break down the big game on whether savings are found.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Think About It Show. I'm your host, Johnny Nunn, here with James Anderson. And today, James, we're talking service.
Yes.
This was your idea because you experienced some stuff over the last few weeks, talking to people and hearing their conversations. Likewise, as I've been out talking to people and doing some on-sites and hearing their complaints. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about what we've observed over the last couple months and talk about it.
Well, it's not just that. You're talking about, with both of us, we're talking decades of service.
Yeah.
The pros and cons. And one of the biggest issues with service, bottom line, communication.
I would say that's number one on the list.
Because if you're talking about a failure on any part, it comes down to a communication. And that's what we're going to deal with this podcast. So folks that are listening, property managers and regional managers, those that have current vendors that are unhappy with service, we're going to dive right into this and just get to the bones of it.
Yeah, I thought we would start off. I wanted to cover, actually, several things I want to cover on this because there's a lot of ways we can go here. But specifically, I had a couple examples I wanted to give. But to go back to this, I wanted to say this to the people that are watching. James and I have been in this industry for, I've been almost 30 years. He's about 25 or
21.
21 years. So just between us two, 51 years of experience in this industry, working for the bigger RBC companies in this industry. So what we have taken or trying to do here is we've listened to the customers we've heard in the complaints in those jobs that we've held and then try to say, how do we answer those problems here? And not so we don't have those problems as a business because we don't want them. Because
right.
And we're going to go over some examples today of what I've ran into this week and today, actually, and some of the things you've ran into in the conversations you've been having with some of the new customers that you've signed on over at the MeterLink side. So I think it's going to be a good podcast because we have a lot of things to cover, but let's start with this, James. I like to celebrate wins, right? And so before we dig into that part of it, let's just talk a little bit about what kind of wins we had this week because it's Friday. It's one of the things I like to do is talk about, I go to my guys and say, hey, what kind of wins did we have this week? So give me a great example of a win you had in this past week.
Well, just before the past week, I just want to focus on one thing. I said in July, we invoiced 2 new properties.
Oh, that's a huge win.
Huge
right
win.
Yeah.
And we just signed another property just a couple weeks ago.
All right. Well,
Word is getting around that MeterLink Solutions, customer service.
Customer service.
Taking care of people.
Not only customer service, but it's also the proactive approach you guys have taken that I have we talked about it collaboratively about what we do. And you've adapted that same philosophy over on that side to, let's use an example. I know there's a property here we did about a year ago, right? So they've had a year of experience with you here locally here in the Tampa Bay market. And it's an HOA property that we took over that had some extremely bad experiences in the past with their billing vendors. Give me some of the information you've been hearing from the board members and from some of the tenants I've heard, because obviously I've been responding to some of the service calls that we've had. There's a few minor issues out there, but that happens. But we responded quickly, got those resolved, got them good answers. What's been the response from the board and the HOA from you?
Well, providing reports that they're not used to getting, doing a 3-month evaluation, letting them know where the money's going, how the submetering system is working, notifying people of leak alerts. They've been found slab leaks, things like that. Giving them AR reports, showing them delinquent accounts and saying, hey, here's some people that haven't paid at all. So it puts the responsibility on the board and the HOA to go after those folks. Just a recent win, just yesterday, our new property, one of the new properties that we invoiced in July, and they were handling billing internally for a few months. And she called me, asked me a few questions and everything, and she says, you know what? I'm so excited about this new partnership. You are very professional. You're very prompt, very quick to get answers back, not just to me, but also unit owners that have questions. A lot of positive feedback. So she says, I'm very excited about the future. That's just the first month. And
it's interesting you use the word partnership because that's a different word than saying, a customer or whatever, right? Because your business, you're trying to build partners. Like we are partners with people. We're not trying to I don't want another customer. I want a partner that can really do well for you, produce for you. And we don't expect you guys to believe what we're saying here, right? It's just because we're telling you this is what we do doesn't mean it's true. And we understand that. That's why we're talking about these things that were real live experiences that we're facing. And we challenge you. Give us an opportunity. We'll prove you wrong. But we guarantee you that we're going to show you something different. You probably have experience in this business because we've been around this for so long. I hear it every day. I just heard it today from a lady. You just heard it this week from people that are just so unhappy with not getting service. Let's dive into that part right now, right? The number one thing you talked about is what? Communication. Right. Communication is probably the number one thing that people have the biggest irk on. Like, I can't get the property, or not the property, but the utility company to call me or respond to me. Email, call, nothing. The lady today had a complaint. I've never had, like, yeah, I hear you. And it's the same thing I hear. It's like a repeat, like a parakeet. It's just repeat, repeat, repeat. They won't respond to my email. I don't know what's going on. I don't get no reporting. They don't answer my phone calls. They don't respond to emails. I mean, it's the same song and dance. And when they do, then it's months later before I hear anything again. So it's like no one's there to support me, and I'm paying for a service that I'm not getting. And I'm sure you've heard the same song and dance that I've been hearing a lot.
Yeah, it's happened a lot. And now, when you're talking about repair service, let's talk about the three aspects. You're talking about local properties. That's phase one. Phase two is in-state properties. Mm-hmm. Then you're talking phase three that are properties out of state that have signed contracts for billing service. Yep. Let's tackle that. How do we handle that?
Well, locally, obviously, that's the easy part because it's my backyard. Not hard to do because I got service techs available and get to you on a regular basis. So if you call me tomorrow, good chances I can get to you within a few days at the best, or at the worst, right? A week at the worst case scenario. State level, well, we hit the states regionally pretty quickly, pretty regional. We're in Miami all the time. We're in Orlando all the time. We go to Jacksonville. So we cover those states or cover those areas pretty quickly and timely. And again, it depends on the need, what's down there, what we need to do. Now, when you get out of state, that things get a little more interesting because it depends on how many properties you have in a particular area. Obviously, there's no way for me to have a service tech in every state. It's just not cost effective because obviously, let's get real. Not everybody has a bunch of properties in every state. Sometimes it's hit and miss where you might be. And sometimes you might have one property in one state. So that happens that way. I find that if you can get with the property and say, hey, this is a partnership, right? It's not necessarily this, and we can cut different breaks, different ways of doing this, but allowing their maintenance tech to kind of help you. If we have an issue that needs to be some sort of part replacement, we'd be happy to send you the part, work with your maintenance guy as like a tech support type situation on the phone, and help them fit that in. That would be the first option. They say, hey, let's do it quickly and do it timely. Let's do it that way. And if it's not an emergency and it can wait, then we will schedule a tech out at a time where we're going to either be in the area or and that sort of thing. So that's how I would probably handle the out-of-state stuff. And as you grow in a particular area, then maybe the need was I need to have a full-time tech in that spot. But until you get to that spot, that's how I would play the game. And a lot of properties I've worked with, I would say 60% of them have no problem doing that because our maintenance guys are already doing AC work and plumbing work and anything anyway. So to put a little meter in or swap out a transceiver or something like that, it's a real easy thing for them to do. So usually they don't have a problem with that.
Okay, let's get an honest scenario here. You have a New Jersey property. We don't have a New Jersey tech. Mm-hmm. One transmitter's down. Mm-hmm. Property manager's aware because they went to the property manager saying, I don't think my bill is correct. So they contact me and they say, we need service. Property is under warranty. How do you handle that situation?
Well, to make the customer happy, I'm probably going to have to get somebody out there in a timely manner. It's just how it is because it's the part of doing business. Would that cost you money in the game? Yeah, because it's not going to be a very cost-effective call. Again, I would probably reach out and ask first, is your maintenance techs available where we could just tech them over the phone if they would be willing to do that? And I'll give them a break on call or service or whatever the case may be to make it, maybe it's part of the service contract. There's different ways of doing that. But if you can help the property help themselves to some degree, and a lot of times that's not really been the relationship. Most time it's just, I'm a billing company, I'll bill you the bill and whatever, right? And I'll try to service you when I can. But I think if you help the property, just like, let me ask you this, when an AC goes down at the unit, do they just wait till the AC tech shows up 3 weeks later before they're getting it done? If they have a maintenance guy that can work on AC, they'll send somebody, their own guy, to do it.
Sure.
We'll treat water meter into kind of the same scenario, especially if it's an emergency. If it's not an emergency, then we'll figure out whether we send you some parts or if I need to send a tech out. If it's even just one unit, I'd probably then find out what other work I can do along the way and make it a trip that's worthwhile. That's usually what I would do.
Well, on the billing side, if you're working with the resident and they know that there's an issue, because they're the ones that brought it to attention, right?
Yeah.
The billing can easily estimate the account for what they've been billed in the past. until a repair is made.
Sure.
So that calms the resident down.
As long as you're not, and I've seen that's a problem. Sometimes the estimations get wacky. They estimate some crazy bills, and that's where you start getting in trouble. If you have some good data history for a while,
sure.
If you had to estimate once or twice a month, or a couple times based on those previous uses, you have some good hard data. Only time that's going to bite you, James, here in Florida it happens quite a bit, is you get snowbirds here, right? So there's times, and that's another thing. That's the next example I'm going to give you. The day the lady I was speaking with was saying how her billing vendor, that she was no communication. Number two was you're having people getting bills that weren't there. They were gone for the summertime showing usage. And then the people that had living there that were actually in the units living getting bills for zero usage. So that would tell me there's probably some sort of audit issue on their end on who and what they're billing, right? That'd be the first thing I would think of.
Sure.
There's some other scenarios of that too, but I don't know anything about who's doing the reads for them and all that, because it's a mechanical read with a touchpad, so they have to send somebody out there once a month to read it. So is the reader reading it? Is it reading it correctly? Is the audit right? There's all kinds of variables on why that could be happening. But again, there are some. If the outfit doesn't send somebody out to correct it, people are getting wrong bills, and that's what causes what? A lot more customer service calls when you got. It doesn't make any sense. I wasn't there all July and August because I'm in Canada, and guess what? I got a bill for 6,000 gallons of water. So either you got a leak, toilet running, which most of these people turn their water off when they leave, so that's because what they do, right, or you're getting somebody else's bill, which is probably what's happening.
Well, the other situation that we're running into with both of our companies, being that we're so integrity-based, that other properties are contacting us to do research on their billing by their previous vendors or current vendors.
Well, integrity that's kind of one of the things we started doing, helping a little bit, like doing some investigation for a property to entice them. Hey, is the billing company using your submetering system efficiently? Are they using it correctly? Because here's what happens. A lot of these submetering companies aren't what I call equipment specialists. They use submetering, but they're not necessarily specialized in the equipment. They get and partner with a meter manufacturer, and they use an AMR manufacturer, and they pair them together, and one thing fits all. That's kind of what they do in a lot of cases. Not every case, but most cases. I'm not that guy. I know all the systems in and out. I'm certified in all of them so that I know what system works best in what application, because sometimes not one manufacturer fits the mode for everything. There's some things that outliers that doesn't work right or whatever. So knowing how those systems works helps me understand properties and whether or not the building companies, and I'll give you an example of that. Called a lady, this is 2 weeks ago. You want to hear, this is crazy. This is literally crazy, I think. But she had called, and because they asked for some replacement transmitters, I sent them the parts. She said, hey, I put them in, they're not working. I said, okay, well, did you give the new IDs over to the building company? Oh, no, I didn't do that. So we'll just send them over that. You should be good to go. She sent the IDs over them, told them what units they belong to. Lady goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, okay, well, that's problematic. So she asked me if I would call her because she didn't know what else to do. Called the lady, and she says, yeah. I said, who handles your system? I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, these IDs are the electronic IDs that come over in your system so that you know what ID is to what you read. I said, this should go into your billing software, also into your AMR system that you're using, and they should be changed out in there to make sure you're getting that information. She had no idea what I'm talking about. Didn't know what I was talking. It was like talking to somebody that didn't.
Wow.
So not all billing companies are the same. Not all billing companies know exactly the systems in and out like we do. So that's a big problem. So again, the smaller ones, the bigger ones, who knows? Everybody. I run into this all. Either the big companies, the small companies, doesn't seem to matter. They all run into these kind of issues.
Well, so that runs into a scenario where as you're in the middleman position when it comes to service.
Yeah.
With properties reaching out to you that already have a current billing vendor because they're frustrated with that vendor. They're coming to you to say, I just want an honest assessment. I need some honest repairs. Now, if that property is out of state, 3 or 4 states away, say, for example, you're in that position where you're like, do I send a guy? Do I fly him out there? Do I drive him out there? Or depending on how many units, do I work with the property's maintenance man?
Yeah.
So you're put in a tough spot.
Sure.
Because you want to help, but you're like, I also don't want to use so many resources that it's going to drain me, or I have to send them a huge bill.
For sure. And again, they're in the middle, and they don't know. Like I said, they don't know what they don't know. So that's why this whole podcast exists, is try to educate property managers and hotel owners and people that are in this kind of world of submetering and that sort of thing that are using understand it, understand a little more about what to look for, make sure,
Right.
what is a good billing vendor, what are the good practices, and so that's why we're talking about some of these things today. There's another thing I want to talk about that happened with us last week with my West Coast operation. So the property they went to go repair, right? They got to the property, they had the work order was sent to them, saying here the material was sent to the property. They showed up to do the work. Well, when they got there, they had, I want to say they had 10 issues on their work order, 10 units to go look at. Well, the property managers expect them to go through 20 units. Like, wait a minute, well, I don't have a work order for 10. So we look in the system, and fair enough, there's like 20 issues on the property. But the problem was, the time the work order was created was 2 months prior to that. And the time it took them to process it, get the material shipped out, schedule somebody to get out there to do it, it was 2 months later. Well, in that 2-month time frame, more issues involved on the property. So property manager's expecting them to fix everything, and I'm saying, well, I'm just a subcontractor, number one. I don't have anything to do other than showing up here with what they tell me to do. And number two, I can only fix with the material they ship. I would be happy to go through all these units for you, but I only have authorization to do these units. This is the only material that I got. So I can't fix your property. So now you're walking away with this property extremely unhappy because they waited 2 months to get somebody out there, and now you're not even getting it all fixed. And so those kind of customers, that's just a bad business practice. Like, it's just not going to work long term. And there again, bigger outfits have a lot of doors, and so they can't really service these properties, I think, in an efficient way, because you got to really focus more on a local level and be good at that. If you can't, like, out here in Tampa Bay, like, our backyard is where we focus at, because we have a lot of apartments, a lot of hotels. Do I need to go to New York for work? I don't think so. I got plenty of it here, right? So focus on being good at your own backyard so you can really service your customers the way they need to be serviced. And I would say to any billing or anybody looking for billing, look for some people that are in your backyard if it exists. They don't, we don't have billing companies everywhere, but if you have a good billing company in your backyard, stick with somebody local that can service you good if they have a good service department.
Okay, here's another scenario, and as one that's scheduled, since you schedule folks, you schedule a date, notify the property, we're going to be here on this date. We're going to be here from 9 a.m. to 12. We have 10 unit entries to do, and you get there, and they didn't send out notices to the residents. So you can't do the unit entries.
Nope.
How do you handle that? Do you charge them?
Well, it depends.
Do you wait the next time?
Again, that would depend, because if it's me scheduling directly with the property, and I have correspondence with the property saying, hey, here's the date we're coming. Yes, you're coming. You're good to clear to go. There's in our service contracts is if we go to a property and if you don't have 40, I think it's 24-hour notice of cancellation, there would be a bill to the property. And that's pretty common practice for everybody these days.
Sure.
Again, if a property manager is saying come, I'm green lighted at that point. I've got authorization to come, and their agreement is, hey, if I come and you don't have any access to me, that's not my fault. That's your fault. And I do have to send you some bill.
And I've run into that.
It wouldn't be a full bill, obviously, but it would be some sort of trip.
Yeah, and I've run into that situation where technicians showed up and that was the case, and then they get sent an invoice and they objected to it, and even threatened to say, "Look, we're going to go find somebody else." It's like, look, we did our part. You asked us for repairs. We scheduled it. We showed up, and you didn't send out the notices. That's on your team. And a technician drove, even if it's Orlando, it's an hour and a half drive.
Sure.
So you're talking time and labor, and just they act like, oh, we can just reschedule at any time. Here's another scenario that happened that almost lost a property for me a few years ago. Is this property had those bad China meters, and folks were being invoiced double, triple of what they're being used. It was off the chart, off the grid for the property and the billing department, because people were getting invoiced, from $1,500 to $3,000, $3,000 to $6,000. It wasn't raising a flag, but people were getting double, triple bills. Bottom line is, they called and said, we need to have these meters replaced. I was facing actually opposition from upper management and tech support because this property was on the West Coast.
Sure.
So we're going to have to fly somebody out there. I said, I understand that. I said, but this we just signed a new contract with them. We sold them a new system. We have to service this property. It got to the point where the property manager called and said, I haven't heard anything back from you guys. It's been a week. Don't know when you're coming out. Calls are now got to the regional manager position regarding the bills. And they said, if you do not get back to us within a couple of days of a date that you're going to schedule a repair, we're going to terminate the contract based upon your not
Lack of
wanting to service.
participation.
Exactly, because that's in the contract that you're going to service the property.
Yeah.
So anyway, we scheduled the property from a Monday to a Thursday to do like 40 unit entries, 10 a day. And the technician got his rental car, and the rental car broke down. He called tech services to say he broke down. Didn't contact the property. Tech services didn't contact the property.
So they're expecting a tech show up and no
Exactly. And so I came back from lunch like 1:30 in the afternoon, and I took the call, and they're like, where the heck is the technician? I said, he's not there? No. Went to tech services. Oh, yeah, his rental car broke down. And nobody thought to contact the property? Because
that'd be your first thing.
You had people that had stayed home from work for these unit entries. So naturally, I'm trying to smooth big time.
Sure.
And so the unit entries ended up happening from Tuesday to Thursday, right? Well, you still had the Monday unit entries. Mm-hmm. And the technician, according to tech services, was supposed to fly out on Friday. So I went to the guy and I said, listen, you're going to have to reschedule this guy. He's going to have to go in and Friday and do the unit entries for Monday. Well, it's going to cost money to, switch the schedule. I went right to the VP and I said, this isn't going to fly. I said, this property is going to cancel us. We sold them on a new system. These new meters are dying. And I said, I need help here.
That goes back to our last episode, James. Cheap equipment.
Yeah.
Don't buy it.
So eventually they did switch the schedule. So he did the Monday unit entries on Friday. And the amazing part is I had such a great relationship with this property manager over the years. Great relationship. In fact, after I left, I communicated with her on my personal email. And she recently got married and all that good stuff. Anyway, she replied back in an email. She said, since you left, customer service sucked.
Well,
so
that's good and bad. I hate to hear that on any other company not doing good customer service, but good to hear that because you were that good relationship.
No, because
with
I
her.
care.
You care.
I mean, look, tech services, when they got that note, or they got that phone call, somebody should have cared enough to make that phone call to the property. But if you're just, time card, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's the culture of the business too. Like the people that you're there, if your culture is bad, if it's not a good culture to the follow-ups and all the things that we do and preach, and you have a good culture and a good experience at your job, people just come and just want the paycheck and they do the very minimum, right? And there's a name for that, and I can't even think. My uncle's a business coach, and so he coaches me a lot of times. He has a name for that. Oh, silent quitting is what they call that.
Really?
Where they're kind of there, but they're not there.
Yeah.
They're just kind of
dealt with that a lot.
Yeah, so that's kind of what they call that. So,
well, here's a good scenario. Okay, here's a perfect scenario. Working with you guys, a transceiver is not reporting. You guys go out, you replace the transceiver. I get a photograph of the meter head showing what the meter read is. Mm-hmm. So I have that as a thing. If the pulse count has changed, then I can notify the billing department, make the necessary change.
Yeah.
If it turns out that there's a catch-up billing, then I will go ahead and send an email ahead of time to the unit owner saying, hey, this repair was done on this date. Here's the meter head read. Water's gone through your meter, and you're going to get a catch-up bill. Your catch-up bill is going to be approximately this for next month. If it's
there's no surprises.
Well, if it's a real high balance, and what I will do is say, look, to help you out, we won't invoice you or hit you up with late fees for the next couple of months because we care. We understand something happened. It's out of our control as far as a billing company, but we're notifying you of this repair because that's what we want to do. We want to be transparent.
Yeah.
And so in all those cases, they'll reply back and say, thank you so much for this. This is kind of a hit, kind of a shock. Yeah, but this is how it happens. I mean, when you're dealing with electronic equipment, it does happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the key thing is, even though it may be a negative or a bad message, like, hey, I got to bill you something, you're communicative, you're explaining what took place and why you're getting it. So they're not just being blind. It's like, why do I owe this money? Well, actually what happened is, this part failed, but the meter didn't fail. I mean, it's always still reading.
Right.
So electronic part just failed, and it wasn't reporting any data to us. So now that we got reporting, we can actually see, here's the water you actually use. So explaining those things, giving a little explanation goes a long way. I mean, you ain't got to go crazy, but just give them a little bit of information makes the customer feel like, okay, well, they did the work. That makes sense. I can get behind that. You ain't going to please everybody. We get that, but
that's the history.
The communication part, like just responding. And I love the part that I heard you guys sent me on a call out there at another property, and one of the things the lady was saying was that she loved the fact that she heard from you specifically, but that James had sent me an email because I left my water hose overnight and I forgot. And it's been running, and James let me know, hey, you got something going on. So this goes back to one of my other one of my topics here is the proactive approach. Submetering is built to capture water leaks. That's the whole point of it.
Right.
We use it to gather the get usage so we can build tenants, but its purpose is now as well as its leak detection is to drive water consumption down, is to be able to capture things happening live. And most of the building companies don't really use that feature. In fact, they kind of hoard it in. They hoard the data in and keep it for themselves and don't let it, let them have it versus saying, hey, property, here's the login to your system. It's your data to begin with, right? Let them learn, teach them how to use it so they can be proactive too. We're going to set them up with the same alerts that I get to say, hey, there could be something wrong here. Do you want to go check it? I think doing that mentality, the proactive approach, having great customer service, answering those calls, responding to calls, and what happens, James, when we capture leaks ahead of time, what is the number one thing it does?
It keeps people from going to the property.
Less customer service calls, less unhappy property managers, not having tenants come in. Your billing company is jacking up my bill. I wasn't there for 2 weeks and I got a bill for this. You get all those scenarios, and we've heard it all. Like we've heard every scenario. I wasn't home. I was gone to wherever. How can I use that much water? I want to take a bath once a week. I mean, you've heard all kinds of crazy, funny stories people use on why they don't use water.
Let's just be honest with all the properties out there. If you're watching this, we're just very honest about how things happen in this industry. And the goal is we'd rather do a lot of work on the front end so that you don't have the complaints on the back end.
Correct.
And that's really the blunt of it. Does it take a lot of labor? Absolutely. Does it take extra time to research accounts and send emails when really you don't have to? Yes. But by keeping people informed, it cuts down the complaints. That's the bottom line. And again, it's all communication based. If you can't communicate, you're not going to make it in this business. And that's how we're game changers in this business.
And these are just a couple of scenarios I'm giving you guys today. We could probably go on for 2 and 3 hours on this podcast talking about all the scenarios that we hear on a regular basis of how our industry is failing their customers. And here, I'm not here to bash the building companies. I'm not here to tell you anything other than this is the information that we're getting. This is why we left you guys to begin with, because we were hearing the customer complaints and hearing what they're saying and trying to, here now, we're actually implementing what they're asking for.
Right.
And now the response that we get from our customers are just astounding. Like, I never heard of anybody doing this, number one. It's refreshing to see somebody that actually care about my account and actually care about my utilities and actually drive the water down. Like, that's what your goal is. Like, I want you to have no high water bills. If you have no customer complaints, you're going to be happy with me, and I'm going to retain you for a long time. And at the end of the day, that's what you want, long-term customers. So.
And that's how honestly, MeterLink is growing, is because word of mouth is going out that we care, and I want every troubled property. I don't care. You know what? It's great. Okay, if we get a new construction property, that's great. I want the disgruntled people. I want those to say, you know what? I've lost faith in this industry.
We actually welcome the challenge. Prove us wrong. I guarantee you, if you give us an opportunity to service you, you won't be disappointed, and I promise you're going to get the service you deserve. And we're going to take your submetering system and use it to your advantage, show you how it works, making sure it's using to its full capacity so that you're getting the best bang for your buck. Not all systems work the same, and I get that, but they all have the same goal in mind, is capturing that usage, and most of them these days have alerts built into them to some degree. Some are better than others, but I'm just saying they're there, and they're probably just not being used. So if you can use your submetering system to its advantage, you're going to drive your water down, you're going to capture those leaks ahead of time, and you're going to drive your water down, save your money, keep your customers happy. That's
the new property we started in July down in Sarasota, it's a manually read property, right? So I get the reads at the beginning of the month, and I sent them a high-low consumption report. They'd never seen that.
Didn't know it existed.
They'd never seen that. They were blown away.
Just a simple report.
Didn't have to do it. No, you don't have to do it, but I want to do it to keep them informed so they can go after folks to find out if there's an issue. Okay, yeah, they could be snowbirds, but especially the high usage, is if there's an issue, they can address it. They were blown away. We've never seen anything like this before. All it is just taking an extra few minutes to pull up a report.
And I get this, James, when we get, you get to a point where these companies get large, it's hard to do what we're talking about doing. And that's why I'm not trying to be the biggest company. I'm just trying to be a company that can serve what I can actually service and grow organically that way in my backyard, in my community. So if you're a Tampa Bay-based property, Tampa Bay-based hotel, you're in the Tampa Bay region, we can cover Florida too, but specifically, the Tampa Bay region, we really want you to reach out because we really feel we can help you guys. We can service you the way you need to be serviced and give you something that you probably have never seen in this industry, which is proactive approach, somebody that actually cares about your account and want to make sure that you're getting what you deserve as a service company.
And if you're out of state, we have no problems with out of state. We have out of state.
No, we can help you there.
Too.
Just understand it's going to be a different approach.
There's a time frame associated with it, but when you reach out to us, we don't ignore you. That's the whole key. And we will be honest and upfront regarding whatever the situation is, whether it's one transmitter or a whole receiver. The whole property's down. Something happened. A storm hit. So it's just a matter of comes down to service and communication.
Absolutely.
And as long as you communicate, we're going to be successful. When you partner with a property and you communicate effectively, everything's going to work out great.
James, well, I got that time of day. We got 30 minutes seemed like it went by just like that. It just happened so fast.
Well, I'm glad you got to see me.
I did glad to see you.
For my dad.
It is great to see you, by the way. I want to thank our sponsors, Integrity Meter Solutions, and MeterLink Solutions for sponsoring this episode. And do we have anything else we need to cover before we get off here, James?
Well, I know that it'll probably be a couple of weeks before this thing posts live on YouTube. But tomorrow, my dad's heavenly birthday would be 90 years.
Happy birthday, Mr. Anderson, up there in heaven, and hope you're having a great time watching down us having podcast time. I do want to give a quick update just because everybody's asking. My house was struck by lightning. So we got the roof all repaired. The outside is all repaired. We got a little bit of software work left to do. Electrician comes in this week to start the electrical total rewire on the whole house. So things are moving along. Hopefully, maybe by the end of this month, we'll get back into our house. So that's the update from that. So other than that, this is Johnny and James signing out from Think About It. See you next time on the Think About It show.
Think about it.